Hello out there, YouTube tinnitus sufferers. I know that a lot of people suffer from tinnitus in some way or another. Um, I've had it for a long time, but I've only actually suffered from it for a couple of years. So I don't know. Those of you who have watched my other video, you know what I'm all about, I guess. But for those of you who haven't, and you don't want to go back, or you can find it. Um, Basically, I've had tinnitus on and off since I was 13, and literally probably 2 years ago, it ramped up to a crazy level. So the last 2 years of my life, I went from the 6 month you're in total crisis mode to, after about 6 months, being able to sort of sleep again and function, to going back to work part-time. Um, since then, I've gone back to work full-time. It took me probably a year and a half to get back to fully normal operating capacity, and then I became a construction foreman and moved up in my industry. So yeah, October 2020, my tinnitus went to jet engine levels. By about March, April, I was doing 4 hours of carpenter work a day and walking dogs and kind of doing odd jobs and stuff. And then by Christmas time 2021, I was working at a company again on the tools as a carpenter. By April 2022, I went up to camp and did a couple of turns up in Kitimat, where I did industrial construction again. I really did not like the sound of the compressed air blowing on the concrete. They do this thing in industrial concrete where they'll spray compressed air to clean the concrete, and I didn't like that. It didn't affect the tinnitus. I was wearing full blocking hearing protection or double hearing protection, but it definitely caused me kind of a sound anxiety or a hyperacusis kind of thing. Maybe a reactivation of some hyperacusis, misophonia stuff I have. So I don't know if you guys know what those things are, but hyperacusis is when you're really sensitive to sounds. I've already gone through that, and I feel like I'm 80% cured of hyperacusis. Maybe 90%. When it first started, I couldn't do anything. I could barely even function in the kitchen or anything like that. Vacuum cleaners and stuff really irritated me. Now I don't know. If a siren goes by, I pull my hearing aids out and cover my ears. So yeah, in that time, I decided to try hearing aids. So I have my hearing aids in there. I've got some Widex hearing aids, Widex Moment, and they work pretty good. They just help bring back some of what I'm missing, and I'm not missing that much, but it's definitely noticeable when I'm trying to listen to music or yeah. So I also do CBD and some THC vaping, and I don't know if they recommend this or not, but for me, I live in Beast, British Columbia. Traditionally, a lot of people around here use cannabis, myself included. So, what I think it does is it helps ease some of the anxiety towards the tinnitus, that fear and anxiety loop that happens. So, yeah, basically, I got my dog too, right, and that really helped. Really helped start a distraction thing. I started getting really into RC trucks again, doing a freestyle radio control, sort of, they call it bashing, I guess. really into my radio controlled trucks. I started playing Modern Warfare quite a bit again. I do quite a bit of live streams on here. I started making a few YouTube videos. I started doing some things again. I've even played guitar a few times. I'm a little nervous with guitar because it's so easy with guitar to get compelled to turn it up louder than you're supposed to. And now that I have kind of an awareness that happens when you get tinnitus and you're concerned that everything's too loud and you're like, oh my God, is this too loud? And is it hurting my ears? And you're like, I better monitor it. So what I did is I got this decibel reading app on my phone, and it actually monitors through the hearing aids so you can hear exactly what's coming to your ear. And I can run this app now, and I can see whatever everything is. It turns around. So it turns around, your microphone's here, pointing at the source, gives you within a couple of dB probably good reading. So now when I go upstairs and try guitar, I'll take this up and it will display fairly big what I'm doing. I'll put that up against something, like my PlayStation here. I can put that right up against there, and now I can see exactly what is going on in the room. So I do that with a bunch of stuff because part of my problem before was that I had, as a musician, had kind of my own way of doing things. So we learn from reading interviews from guys like Eddie Van Halen and stuff. And sure, Eddie and Eric Johnson, all these great guitar players, they sidewash their amps. They have techniques for how they avoid being hit hard by their amps, but it still isn't really providing you the protection that you need. The SPL level is still higher than it should be, and I've since found out that a lot of these older school rockers who were like what we learned off of, me being a 41-year-old rocker, was that you had a huge amp behind you, Marshall, with a monitor right up in front of you, and that monitor's got to be louder than the drums. So, apparently Metallica's monitors were 120 decibels or something, or 110. Alex Van Halen's hit 130 on the 1991 FUCK tour, Foreign Lawful Carnal Knowledge tour, and that's when he was having tinnitus, Alex Van Halen, and they discovered that he had Meniere's disease, and they basically invented the in-ear monitor for him because the only way he was able to play anymore was if he had noise canceling studio headphones on in the live situation. So I've seen these things happening to these guys back in the day when I was first learning how to play guitar, and I was a kid in the 90s, and I was in and out of wearing hearing protection my whole life. A lot of times, most of the time I wore it, but there was some times that I didn't have it, it wasn't provided, I forgot it. We've all been there. Or I wanted to pull it out and hear what the guitar sounded like off the stage at a concert. There's a whole bunch of little mistakes that I made over my life. Also, I didn't read up about medications that I took. I wasn't big into the meds, but like I said in my last video, I was on a couple of things. Not to get too personal, but I was on some anxiety medication, and it turned out that is on top of the list of ATA, American Tinnitus Association. So, I weaned off those medications. I barely take any pain medication. I do THC for pain medication, edibles and stuff like that when I have to. And a lot of the pain cycle is the same as the tinnitus cycle, and I'm already seeing that they're offering drug-free treatments to treat chronic pain the same way that they treat tinnitus, which is to reframe it as something less negative. So getting to that's what has brought me to being able to sort of function on a semi-normal level lately, is that I've done a lot of work of repetition, changing thoughts and forcing behaviors So I've just tried to push through now and live my life. And I face a lot of my fears with sound now, like being back in an industrial workplace where there's machines everywhere and loud sound and a lot of hammering and talking and stuff like that. So, in order to facilitate that, I had an audiologist a year ago who I did some tinnitus retraining therapy with, and she recommended these. What are they called? They're 3M Peltor uh, earbuds. So I have these electronic hearing protectors now, and they're awesome because I can put them in the middle setting and I can hear everything good. And then once work happens, it turns on and the hearing protection kicks in. Those really help me because one of the biggest problems I was having returning to work was I put my custom molded earplugs in. They work awesome, but I can't talk to anybody that well, and I can't hear people that well. And I had a couple miscommunications at work when I'd be wearing those, and all I can hear is ringing when I'm wearing those. At least with the passive ones, the nice thing about them is that you can like hear the world around you until the sounds get loud. So I really liked it because I don't have to worry about if I'm wearing earplugs or not, if that makes sense, because sometimes sound it's just on the threshold a sound of being a little loud. And if you have a little bit of hearing loss, maybe you can't totally tell. So the nice thing about the digital electronic hearing protection is it has that cutoff built in. I think it's 82 decibel, kicks in, and it like immediately attenuates the noise around you. And then as soon as it's over, it's back up, which is nice if you're a carpenter like I am and somebody's like, cut me a board at 25.5 inches. And you're like, yeah, okay. And then you make the cut. And then you're like, hey, what's the next number? And they're like 16 inches. You're like, okay. And so you're not like having to like pull your earplugs out or take your headphones off, risking damage because sometimes unpredictable things can happen in the workplace, or you're just around a lot of other carpenters or workers and they're banging away near you and you can't necessarily, you don't really want to not be protected. So I find that these are good. They lower. So I could probably figure out a way to include the link, but yeah, they're called Peltor earbuds, 3M Peltor earbuds, and they're like on Amazon. They're expensive. So there's an alternative. There's the Walker ear muffs on Amazon. So I have to wear a hard hat at a lot of jobs and I work in the hot weather. So for me, the earbuds are a better go because they're not as like on my face and bumping into things and whatever. But for somebody who's like, say, a homeowner, they don't actually face a lot of noise, but when they mow their lawn or use a weed eater or leaf blower or something like that, or like even just like they're unsure of uh, if something's too loud, like you're in a public thing or whatever, you need to have the confidence that you can walk around. Those things work good too. The worst thing you can do is put earmuffs on all the time. And if you're like new to tinnitus or whatever, that's where I went wrong. And when I got diagnosed with whatever secondary tinnitus that I got, since I've had tinnitus since I was like 13, but this new tinnitus was like idiopathic. Like they couldn't really figure out where it came from. So I had found earplugs everywhere in the console of my truck and everything, like my washing machine, shelf, like truck, work stuff, everything. There was like earplugs like everywhere. Like I would wear earplugs if I had the slightest doubt that something was going to be loud. So I would get out of my truck because guys would yell at a little bit at this job site I was at, not in a negative way. They'd just be like yelling, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" And you'd be right in front of them, and they'd, "Hey, what?" And so I got really sensitive to that. People like raising their voice in like a sports sort of way. So I would jump out of my truck wearing these, and it compounded the problem because my ears are getting less and less and less signal. And then do my whole day with those, and I'd see guys not wearing earplugs in the workplace and think, geez, like you should be protected all the time. But I found out now it's not necessarily true. If you're not making a huge sound, you don't necessarily need the hearing protection. And now in my industry, that's a very difficult thing, because especially when you're on a big crew and it's a high demanding, high paced work area, and you're like me, you like to go fast. Sometimes people are like, come over here, I need you to change gears and do this now. And you're like, okay. And if you don't have your earplugs in, you might find yourself in a place that you need them and you don't have them. So that's why I like the 3M ones, because I know at all times. And the nice thing about them too is you can turn them off and they go totally dead. They're still a hearing protector without the electronic. So sometimes when I feel like I've had enough of hearing the kind of amplified sound through them, because they kind of like compress everything. So it does kind of have like kind of a, mic turned up in a recording studio effect sometimes, where you can hear like somebody's footsteps, almost like they're designed around the military concept. Originally, what happened is that veterans were coming back with destroyed hearing, and they were finding out why, and it was because they'd be like wandering around Afghanistan or Vietnam or whatever for like forever, and then all of a sudden a bunch of stuff would happen and no one would have time. And so they designed things that, like the walker ones, they're like set up so you can turn the dial on the side of your head and it'll amplify the world around you to the point that you can like hear, you could hear somebody like walking quite a long ways away. And then as soon as you pull the trigger, the attenuation comes on. So the 3M earbuds that I use have that, but I don't have any desire to amplify things to that point. So I run them in the middle setting. When I first got them, I could only run on the low setting because I still had quite a bit of a hyperacusis thing going on. It seemed weird. So I ran them on the low setting for like a while. And then on my last job, I became a foreman and I needed to talk to people a lot. And these earbuds, they were perfect for that because I could like talk to people, blah, 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 hear them. I could have my little speaker on. I could listen to my music or whatever. But then as soon as I needed to go and hammer a nail, I could just, and then if I needed extra double hearing protection, because sometimes I still do run the odd chipping hammer thing, or I face that fear. So, but I will double up when I'm going to run anything that's a jackhammer or some sort of hammer drill like that. I'm like, not taking any risks for the quick second it takes to double up, turn off the 3M Peltors, hold the button, turn them off, put the earmuffs on over top. So I've kind of changed the way that I protect my hearing, but I didn't stop protecting my hearing, and I did overdo it for a while, and it took me quite a bit of therapy to learn to bite the bullet. I spent about $400 on all these hearing protection devices. Plus, I got custom molded 29 decibel ones. I got another set of custom molded 21 decibel ones. I got a custom set of musicians 25s, and I got a custom set of 26s that hang on a string. Plus, I got the 3M Peltor push-in with the skull screw passive ones and the Walker headphones for just whatever around the house or when I don't need to be wearing earbuds. So I put quite a bit of investment into upgrading my hearing protection, getting away from wearing those little yellow Howard lights that they gave out. And when I saw the impression of my ears from the audiologist, I realized those earplugs probably weren't protecting my huge ear canals enough either. So that's my spiel on hearing protection. So I got that all dialed in. So sleeping, I listened to Tinnitus rewiring guided meditation right from the beginning. And I listened to that for like a year. And it's just some French lady telling you to turn your, like I said, the last video I made, they're talking about your like a little fetus in the womb. That meditation worked good. Another thing that happened, I was still sleeping. I was sleeping good after a while, but I was waking up and feeling like shit. So I had a sleep study done before COVID, but it got like everything in COVID, it got lost or something. So I got a sleep study done. It turned out I had highly severe sleep apnea. And so I got on the CPAP machine about a year ago. And that really helped. not the tinnitus necessarily. It just helped me sleep better. And at first, I had to sleep in another room, and I was a bit horrified. It's like, okay, now I've had this severe tinnitus for a year. Now I have to hook up to a CPAP machine. I felt like a fucking robot when I'd go to sleep. It was pretty fucking depressing at first, to be honest. Uh, and then I slowly sort of got used to the CPAP machine, and now I'm super used to it. Uh, and I couldn't live without it. And I have slept in the same room as my wife a few times again now because I couldn't for a while because I was so screwed up. If I got bumped, woken up in the middle of the night with this loud tinnitus, I would be up now. And I went through that for like a long time, and I still do. Like, not from the tinnitus, I just get woken up, and it just puts me in that I'm woken up now state again. And then now it won't be the tinnitus that keeps me up. Lately it's been more like other things. Like I'm doing a business startup right now, and other things that are kind of not stressing me out, but things that keep me up. Maybe normal people's anxiety, like not just like, oh, is this noise in my head gonna go away anytime soon? More like, you know, I'm worrying about financial stuff related to dumping a bunch of money into my business and stuff like that. So not a bad thing, just regular stress. So the CPAP machine. So I advise anybody who has tinnitus to go get a sleep study because often tinnitus and sleep are quite correlated, and people are like, oh, I have tinnitus. I don't notice it during the day, but then when I try to sleep, it just haunts me or whatever. Very common. That's how it started for me. For like since I was 13. So I would do the sleep study if I was you. I would do the if you need a CPAP, I would find a way to get it and get used to it. Mine has like these little nose things, and I breathe through my nose, and you don't have to wear a full-on mask. So, anyways, sleep apnea machines have come a long way. A lot of people have it; they don't realize they have it, and apparently the snoring can actually hurt your ears, and that can be one thing that causes tinnitus is just your own loud snoring. So for me, I snored like I was screaming in a metal band. Apparently, I'd just be like, and then I was in a metal band. So, and plus I'm a carpenter. So over the years, and then you stop breathing. So you're getting some sort of brain damage or some sort of lack of oxygen going on. So that helped a lot. And I got my dog. That was in my last video. I got a dog. I got a bull mastiff boxer cross. It's a lot of work, but I love having a dog now. It keeps me help me get distracted, especially in the morning when I'd wake up and all of a sudden I would just be like, the sound, it's louder than the heat vents, and all those weird internal thoughts you have. Now I can hear it over the bathroom fan. Here goes my day, or whatever. To kind of more like, I still have some of that, but I'm more like, hey, buddy, you want to play? Or good morning. I see my dog. He distracts me with the love. Just a lot of times that I would have just been sitting on the couch, like pinned from tinnitus. Now, when I do get pinned from tinnitus, which does happen lots, I like snuggle with my dog so much. I'm just, yeah. I lean on my dog a bit, and then he gets me out getting exercise, which is another thing that's hard when you first get bad tinnitus. Going outside can be weird, right? I still find it weird because when I go outside, I hear tinnitus like louder than traffic sometimes, or lots, all the time. So for the longest time, I was like terrified to go outside. I hated going outside for a long time. So the dog kind of like forces me to go outside, and like I'll go to the dog park and stand around and listen to the crickets, and like I don't like it when dogs bark and stuff. Still, that really bugs me. Just like the hyperacusis thing, dog barks in there in my face. I don't like it, and so I'll leave. Like if the dog owners aren't gonna like try to do something, I'm pretty firm with my dog. Like, okay, that's enough. Then I usually take off. I just kind of keep going for my walk, or I take him on the off leash part of the dog park. But if you have the money and you can afford it and you can commit to it and you like animals, dog's a good way to go. I found for tinnitus. Even if my dog's not really a compassion dog, he's a spoiled brat, but he just distracts me, right? I made him a medium rare steak the other day. It was hilarious. That's fun. So um, I've made sure, like at the beginning, I was like not listening to any music, and I did this. Like I listened to this video by this guy named Bruce Hubbard. This guy interviews him. He's like a CBT therapist for tinnitus. He has tinnitus too, and he talked about safety behaviors. And I actually did. I did a CBT for tinnitus course online. You can go to the Hashier Clinic. It's this East Indian dude, lives in England, and he has a Hashier Clinic. And I did that course when it was still free, and I'm glad I did, because it literally walks you through doing things that you used to do before you had tinnitus, and going to do things like watching a movie or listening to music, or reading a book. He uses like really basic, accessible things that most everybody does, and I did that. I did what he told me to do. Like I watched a movie, even though like I hadn't watched TV for a while, and I watched TV, and I forced myself to do it for like quite a few months. So that's the other thing I suggest, is just force yourself to watch TV for a few months. So, and then now I find watching TV is like a normal thing for me now, just like it was before. Like I noticed the tinnitus, I guess, but it's like I'm just like watching TV. I just watch the Ozarks, and I'm like, oh, I hope this character, gets killed off this season. I hate this character. Just my normal thoughts. So yesterday I played my guitar through my app, made a little recording on my phone, and sent it to one of my former bandmates, and just was like, check out this song. I still know how to play stuff that I like used to do. So I've been noticing that it's like sort of slowly coming back. And then getting into my RC tracks and rebuilding RC tracks and playing the fast-paced video games. I learned that from this guy named Vic Veers. And Vic Veers is another, I don't know, I think he's a ENT. I've discovered him on YouTube, and he's in Quora. He's talking on Quora as well. And he said what he did was listen to boring Weather Channel stuff until that didn't work. And then he started listening to podcasts until that didn't work. And then he started playing really high-paced games like Call of Duty. And that's what I've been doing. I play a lot of Call of Duty. And it might just seem like I'm wasting my day, but I'm not, though, because I'm practicing a concept, which is where don't you're like doing the things you used to do. You're distracted from the tinnitus while you're doing it. So as long as you're distracted from the tinnitus and that's not bothering you, then that's kind of the concept that we're going for. So I've noticed it a bunch now. Like when I'm out RCing, it's like I don't have tinnitus. So I learned these concepts from a book called Rewiring Tinnitus. And Rewiring Tinnitus is written by a guy named Glenn Schweitzer. And I'm actually about to work with him. So Glenn works with a lot of different celebrity musicians and different people, actors and musicians and regular folks. But he has worked quite extensively with quite a few big name acts that we can't really know who they are because of NDAs in the music industry. But he's had great success helping people get their careers back on track, as a lot of us musicians tend to have this tinnitus or whatever. So I'm just did my first consultation with him, and just getting a startup business going, which is another thing. Like I pretty much quit my job as a foreman, and I'm doing a startup with a buddy, building playground equipment. So another good thing when you're recovering from tinnitus is you start to notice that you did some things that you used to do. Because for me, when I got tinnitus, I like couldn't do anything. I like lost my ability to do anything, even sleep. I could barely even drive. I was just consumed with it. So yeah, I know I'm doing better because I'm doing a bunch of stuff that I used to do, and I'm more my worries are less about tinnitus and more about like regular stuff. So my advice is just keep going. Keep watching the Dr. Ben Thompson videos. I'm the moderator for the Pure Tinnitus group. So if you want to, it's the best group for tinnitus on the internet. So you can always come to that and check that out. Glenn Schweitzer sells his book on Amazon, and I bought it in Kindle format, so I can read that book on my tablet anywhere I go. But I recommend that book. It's an easy read. I read it in the bathtub when I was having a meltdown from tinnitus, and it gave me some hope. And hearing aids help me, even though I just got a bit of roll off. I like them. I wear them. I'm wearing them right now. So there is hope. I have a pretty bad case of tinnitus. Like, it's pretty shitty. I will tell you that. Or it can be shitty. So, keep hanging in there. Do the meditations. Check out Dr. Ben. Check out Glenn. Come join the Pure Tinnitus group. Stay away from all the other groups. Don't go in any of those other groups. When I first got this, I went on every group looking for support, looking for a cure. And all I found was a bunch of people kind of stuck. And when I left those groups and moved on with my life a little bit, I went back to some of those groups to find the same people still stuck in that same place. So I found, and a lot of the counselors, same thing. When you stay in the groups, too much of the groups, they can end up kind of messing with you because you start catastrophizing. When I moderate the Pure Tinnitus group, when somebody comes in trying to sell a herb or a scam, one of those guys, we get rid of that right away. And then the people who constantly ask for a cure or constantly proclaim a cure or constantly ask for a cure or are angry about the cure, those people, we end up filtering out their posts because those negative posts, they can really affect other people. So I faced a lot of stuff like suicide ideation and stuff like that when I got this. So I really know how crazy it is, but it doesn't help to be around a bunch of other people who are thinking the same thing. You actually have to be around people who know that it gets better. But there isn't a lot of them out there on the internet. There's not a lot of people out there talking about how they're doing better. Because a lot of us, even doing this video, I was like, been meaning to do it and just give a quick update because I've had a few people write to me being like, oh, thanks or whatever. I'm like, well, I'm just sitting here in a chair rambling about having tinnitus, right? But anybody that you can hear from that isn't freaking out about it is good. Like, there's this guy named Dave Duval, but he calls himself the tinnitus coach now. He's on YouTube. He's like, whatever. He's a good dude. He makes off-the-cuff videos on his phone that are just like him talking like this. And he really helped me. The tinnitus coach on YouTube. He's cool. I really like him. He just talked about how he's getting used to it and how he's coping better. And when he started out, though, his channel, he wasn't positive about it yet. So I've seen him go through this process of habituation, breaking some cycles of negativity and stuff. And I really clung to his videos. So basically and you know what, over time though, I watched no tinnitus videos anymore. Like, that's the other thing. I barely watch a thing. I was watching a Ben Thompson the other day about this neurosurgeon who has been researching it. And it's a great video. The guy's a genius. He's a pretty realistic dude too. But I could only get halfway through it, and I'm just like, I've already listened to this guy on a different channel. I think I listened to him on Tinnitus Talks, and I know exactly what he's talking about, and the neural networks of the brain and everything. And he's super cool and super awesome, super smart. But I'm just like over looking for the cure. Once I heard that dude a year ago too, I was like, you know what? If this genius German neuroscientist can't find the cure to this, and he said he could cure it in 5 years, and 5 years came and went, and he didn't cure it. He did another 5 years. He said he'd do it in 10. 10 has come and went. He's on year 12 now, I think, and he still hasn't found the cure. But he's hopeful because he's every failure he said that they do is a step closer. That's how it works. So they just keep failing, 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 and they're learning more. And what they've learned about it is that it's not just the auditory cortex in the brain. It's like multiple. So you got your reptilian brain and your frontal cortex and your all these different parts of the brain, right? And they're all firing in perfect unison to create this tinnitus. So he's talking about how they're actually researching hallucinogens, like pure hallucinogens, to disrupt that network and put into the brain at certain times and inject it and to disrupt this network of like a computer network. So, but as time goes on, I kind of would rather watch a video on RC trucks because I spent like a year and a half or a year at least sitting around researching tinnitus to the point that I probably know everything about it up until now, like this point in time. I probably know almost all there is to know. I've read Tinnitus Retraining Therapy by Josh Dabroff. I've done tinnitus training therapy with a therapist. I moderate a group now. Basically, a veteran tinnitus person. And the only thing that's worked for me is to just keep living my life. And then now, like the other night, I had like, I don't know if you guys get this, but sometimes you get no tinnitus and it's fucking scary. Yeah, that happened to me the other night. I had like no tinnitus and I was like laying in bed. I couldn't hear ringing and I fucking couldn't sleep because I'm so used to listening to the tinnitus now. It's like a fucking, I don't know. It just makes a sound and I'm used to it and I fall asleep. Without it, I was like, I need to put some rain sounds on or something. And it took me forever. It actually gave me anxiety to not have tinnitus. Part of it is because when it goes away, you have quite a bit of anxiety knowing that it's probably going to come back. And so that's a big annoyance, right? Is I bet you that 100% of us, even if you're habituated to it, you hit a point where you're probably like, man, if it just like turned off one day, like it does sometimes, and just stopped, I would be so happy. But then it happens, and you're like, when's it coming back? And sure enough, later on in the day, or once I got tired or something, it kind of came back. Or the next day, it's like I wake up the next day, it's like a whole new day. It's like, no, we're allowed to leave. So, yeah, I've definitely, it's been a struggle. My thing is now is that I want to play music again. And playing music can be a little difficult when you have tinnitus because the volumes of the drums and stuff like that cannot be good for somebody with tinnitus. And being in small stages or having people yell in your ear, amps loud, anything like feedback squeal from the monitor, all these things are like not good for tinnitus. So, and they're not good for the psyche of someone with tinnitus because when something happens, I think a lot of people experience this when Harley Davidson comes by and it's just so loud. And for me, I have my hearing aids in or whatever. So like I can't cover my ears unless I like plan it and pop these out and cover my ears. And you'll be sitting there for a while being like, I wonder if that made the ringing louder. And I find that it doesn't usually, but I haven't been to a concert since this happened, and I haven't played a concert, and I played through my amp, my Eddie Van Halen 60-watt combo. I played through my amp yesterday for the first time in 2 years. And so, once again, like I say, it's a little different playing music. I put my decibel meter on the desk and I turned the amp up a little bit and I played it till I hit about 75, 80 decibels, and then I left it at that. But after I'd been playing for a while, I like put the guitar down for a second. I came back and I was like, oh, it seems quieter. I feel like I need to turn up. and I pulled out the decibel meter, and no, it was not. The SPL was the same. So as a musician, I can totally see where I went wrong with volume in the past, because it seems quieter as you play, and then you turn up, and we've all seen it. We've all been at a gig where somebody's doing it, or you do it, or you're at you're an audience member, and it suddenly gets loud with the guitar. I'm a total culprit of that, playing quiet at the sound check, and then once it's time for my time to go on stage, I'd crank the amp up all the way. I'd run like a Marshall, 50-watt Marshall, dimed, right? And the sound man is just crying because it's louder than everything on the stage. So that's kind of like where I kind of went wrong, is that I didn't really ever dial my tone into the SPL. I dialed my tone into what sounded awesome. And what sounds awesome on an amp, even a small amp, can harm your hearing after a couple hours of playing. And I'm sure you could do 85 decibels, but for me, I don't want to take the risk right now. I'm just easing into it. I did 80 decibels, and I kept the SPL on. And then what was cool, though, is once I tried everything out and I knew that everything wouldn't go above 80, then I just turned off the meter, and then I was rocking out. And I knew that even though sometimes I'm having a little hyperacusis, or it feels a little sensitive, or some of the higher end stuff feels a little, I haven't played through an amp for a bit. It's like, I know that I'm not hurting myself, though, at 80 decibel. I know I'm not hurting myself. I could play like that probably all night. So, yeah. I'm going to buy Glenn's program here, and I'm going to do the program, and he's pretty much guarantees that I'll be playing music again. So that's the final straw for me, is if I can start working in the studio again and I can start playing guitar again, I'll be really happy, because this has been the hardest part about this, is as a veteran musician, been playing in the club since I was 16, and I have a degree in music, and I put out a bunch of records, and to lose my ability to do my music in order to not really enjoy doing it, it's been shitty. So my hope is that I can kind of go from being a bedroom player again to being out playing. Like, I'd like to play gigs and stuff again. So the in-ear monitors are going to happen next. And yeah, I'm just going to keep on going. I'm going to start working again and start my company and just keep going and be happy that I didn't do anything stupid, because this condition can push you to the edge. That's for sure. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little ramble and you don't feel too bored. But over and out for now. Let me know in the comments what you think. I like hearing all the stories about people who go through this stuff too. Gives us hope. It's like our community, right? So everybody have a good day and best of luck.